I talk about peace of mind. Peace of mind does not require any particular insight to achieve. There's no particular activity or method that produces peace of mind. Peace of mind is a distinction that we can contrast with other experiences. And so it is helpful to distinguish peace of mind relative to other experiences that we may have. There are three words that I think of as contrasting with peace of mind. I'll mention those in a moment, but here's some words that are similar to peace of mind: contentment, happiness, bliss, relaxation. Now some words that contrast with peace of mind: fear, guilt, and shame. Many of us experience some kind of discouragement in regard to fear and sharing fear and admitting fear, revealing fear, displaying fear, showing fear. We learn that it can be valuable to freeze and refrain from calling for help or crying or screaming or anything that draws attention to ourselves. Sometimes we find that it's better to be quiet, to freeze, to stop moving, to stop making sounds, to hold our breath in fear. This doesn't eliminate peace of mind, to hold one's breath or to stop moving. But we can notice a contrast when we are suddenly startled and surprised and interrupted, and our body just shifts, some reflex of action. We notice we're holding some muscle tension. We're holding our breath. We take a sharp, quick breath in out of surprise, out of being startled. But the fear of showing fear or being recognized as experiencing fear, that gets into anxiety and paranoia. And how do I avoid experiencing fear? How do I avoid showing fear? One way, of course, to avoid showing fear is to avoid contact with other people, to withdraw into seclusion or reclusivity or mere privacy. That's quite adaptive and functional sometimes to have a timeout. That's the saying that's used sometimes with children, is timeout. Of course, that comes from sports. Sometimes there is a sporting event going on, a game, and at some point in the game, one of the teams may want to pause, relax, reconsider what to do next, or simply rest. So a moment of privacy or seclusion or retreat, withdrawal, those are all things that happen sometimes. So we can be afraid of withdrawing, afraid of calling time out. Oh, the other team might think that we're concerned that we might lose. Well, call a timeout when it's time to call a timeout. If it's best to pretend that There's no concern over a loss, or there's no interest in winning when the game is close. Okay. But peace of mind allows for withdrawal, allows for seclusion, allows for time out, allows for the experiencing of fear, the displaying of fear, and the related things like jealousy and anger and rage and frustration and a variety of things that are all related to some kind of disappointment and fear of a continuing disappointment. So, fear of the display of fear is anxiety or paranoia. We can notice paranoia, anxiety, agonizing, worrying, and those practices, those behaviors, do contrast with peace of mind and contentment. However, they still don't eliminate the possibility of immediate peace of mind, immediate happiness. Suddenly, delight can arise in the midst of worrying, in the midst of agonizing. Those can be interrupted. Laughter can arise suddenly with no interaction with anyone else. Just all of a sudden, I might recognize my own practice of worrying, and it might seem a little silly or a little ridiculous. Maybe that worrying has allowed me to insulate myself or isolate myself from certain other people or many other people. I have a little bit of privacy because I practice worrying. That gives me the opportunity to be by myself, and instead of interacting with people a lot, I'm worrying and thinking and introspecting and creating, practicing, doing things privately, doing things on my own, things that don't involve other people. So that gives me the opportunity to operate without such influence from other people. And obviously, at some point, I might initiate interaction with other people. I might say, wow, I want partnership with other people. I want assistance from particular people in regard to particular things, whether it's repairing my car or teaching me how to do something on the computer or partnering in a business, whatever it may be. Initiative can arise spontaneously, peacefully, out of just relaxing, out of just a little bit of withdrawing. So I don't know that I'm going to say a lot about guilt and shame, but briefly, guilt has to do with actions that I've taken. And my own guilt would have to do with actions that I've taken that I'm afraid of revealing to other people because of concern about punishment and consequences. Being criticized, being condemned. So if I've done specific things that I think, okay, this is better kept private, this is better shared only with select people. I can talk to a lawyer about it, or I can talk to a minister confidentially about it, but I might be skeptical about going on TV and talking about it, or writing a book about it, or whatever it may be. So there's things that I've actually done that I may think, okay, these are things that other people may find frightening. And rather than deal with the responses and reactions of other people, I might do that thing less, or stop doing it, or stop even referring to it. Stop talking about it, or stop talking about it so specifically. So guilt has to do with what actions have actually developed, what has actually manifested. this sense of personal regret, sorrow, sadness, certainly fear, disappointment with the results produced, concern about consequences, a lot of conservatism. So again, all of this is in the realm of fear. So guilt has to do with the past, but it also has to do with expectations about the future. Guilt can be a contrasting experience to peace of mind and contentment and relaxation. Because of the mixture there with fear, if I'm afraid of future guilt, that's basically what worrying is a fear of future guilt, of future regret. So I'm afraid of failing, I'm afraid of criticism, I'm afraid of condemnation. That would be what I call anticipatory guilt, meaning I'm concerned about future consequences. As I consider a few different actions, I'm paranoid about, well, what would the consequences of these things be? I'm frightened they might not go well. Here's 3 different choices. Wow, none of them sound very good. And that worrying is connected to guilt. That analytical paralysis, what do they call it? Paralysis by analysis. That worrying, which keeps one from taking action, again, has a function, which is simply to keep one from initiating a lot of action. So until there's clarity and confidence and all of the resources aligned and in place, it may be best to wait. And so worrying about possible future guilt, well, what if it fails? What if it goes wrong? There is a functionality to that. There's also the possibility of peace of mind and a recognition of concerns and risks and a recognition of opportunities and priorities. So if I'm concerned about future guilt, a lot of times that's because I want to do something that's attractive to me, and I know in the past has been pleasurable, but I'm concerned, I'm afraid about how it might go. What if other people find out? I think guilt is often related to pleasure. I've done something, I actually really liked it, I liked the results, but when other people found out about them, they might have reacted with punishment or criticism, the withholding of rewards, that kind of thing. So guilt has to do with things actually done. Peace of mind is independent of guilt, but contrasts with it. It can help to review what guilt is to notice what peace of mind is. The other thing besides fear and guilt that I mentioned is shame. Shame, I never really thought about shame in the following way until just prior to creating this audio. Shame I'm calling a reference to what hasn't been done, an action that hasn't been taken, a result that hasn't been produced. In the past, I'd seen a lot of references to shame as like when I think that I am a certain way, I am too secluded, too reclusive. If I am too reclusive, then that could go with shame. Well, okay, so I haven't initiated interaction with people. I haven't developed certain networks, or when I did, they didn't last, or whatever. Certainly, withdrawing into privacy and shame tend to be related. But what I haven't done isn't inherently a cause of shame. It's the fear of a social disapproval, such as every 18-year-old male in this particular society or culture is expected to join the military and go and kill foreign people, or is expected to get married, or is expected to go to college or whatever. So someone doesn't go to college or doesn't do whatever other things as of a certain age. Well, what's so inherently shameful about it? There's nothing inherently shameful to not go kill foreign people or to go kill foreign people and experience guilt. Neither of those are inherent. Peace of mind is independent of the past. This is a little bit of an odd thing, I suppose, but what if peace of mind is completely independent of the past? Whatever I didn't do that maybe I might have thought that I should have done, or other people expected me to do, or they would have rewarded me if I had done it. Well, if all that stuff I didn't do is just stuff that I didn't do, rather than stuff that I should have done but didn't do, which would be shame. Well, if it's just things I didn't do, then I can have peace of mind about all that stuff and peace of mind about shame. If I've experienced shame, that's just me experiencing an awareness that I didn't do something that other people might have rewarded me for doing, might have encouraged me to do, and I didn't do it. So that's shame. Guilt, I did something that other people might have discouraged me from doing, or warned me about doing, or punished me for doing it, but I did it. And that's guilt. And I can have peace of mind about guilt and about the actions that I took for which I experienced guilt. I can have peace of mind about fear. If I have fear in the future, that would be likely. That would be probable. It's extremely probable that in the future I may experience being startled, being frightened, being afraid, worrying, being paranoid or anxious or nervous. Any of those things are at least possible. Maybe they're not predictable, maybe they're not likely, but they're certainly possible. And right now, I can have peace of mind about the future and the past and even the present. I can have contentment. A happiness that is not specific to a certain condition. It's not just joy or gratitude, but a spirit of bliss, maybe. Openness. Relaxation. Happiness. Not necessarily delight, but certainly delight is very easy to access from a mode of peace of mind. In fact, from a mode of peace of mind, if there's no resistance to any particular pattern, any particular possibility, then it would be easy to access most anything, even maintaining peace of mind. So, if fear arises, that is the arising of fear. If guilt arises, there was an action and there was some consequence. That is the arising of guilt. If shame arises, there was the expectation of certain action and yet no action was taken or some other result was produced by that action. Well, that's the arising of shame. It could be think about financial developments of the recent years. Someone experiences a foreclosure. Well, they didn't expect to. They didn't plan to. They were hoping not to. Maybe they experienced bankruptcy, or they're late on a credit card payment, or they're late on a bill, or they lose their job. Maybe the company they are working for closes. Well, those things, there can be a transitional period of adjustment, and we can call that experience shame. And in that time period, there may be many people that it doesn't work for us to interact with, or not in the same old ways that we've been interacting with them. So it would involve some innovation. And it may be that we are much more selective about who we interact with and how we interact with them. And so that's part of the maturing process. So things can arise contrary to our expectations, and we can be disappointed or ashamed to have had those experiences in our past. That has no inherent relevance to the future or the present. That's just what happened. Shame, guilt, fear, whatever. Peace of mind, no big deal. I had peace of mind a few years ago or a few months ago. So what? What about now?